We're doing a giveaway for an ASM 300, and all you need to do is join our newsletter by hitting the link in the description or go to comictom101.com. Right on the landing page, a box opens up, you put your email in, and you qualify for all of our giveaways. Let's talk about the hottest comic books in the world. Everyone's getting fired, comic fam. I mean, Jonathan Majors, what's going on with Kang and Gem Mint? I mean, after our last spat, this dude's gone. Fire guy Ryan took over the job. I mean, what can I say? Sorry, Geminites.
Whoa. Gem Mint has not been fired. I was gone for 3 weeks, but that's because I was out of the country. If you guys want to see what I was up to, check out my channel. I went to Brazil for CCXP, and I went to Singapore for SGCC.
I don't even know what all that means, Gem, but I assume it has to do with the statues. Hit the like, slap the subscribe button, follow Gem Mint from Gem Mint Collectibles, and although Kang is nowhere on this list because these are sales that took place prior to this big shakeup that Marvel's doing over there, I suspect in coming weeks, we're going to see a flood of Avengers 8 and Kang appearances hit the market because people are starting to sell. And that is also something that's happening this week on our list and has been happening routinely in the last month. Members are selling their comics, their high-end key books in such mass that it's made some of the perfect times to secure funny books. And at the list at number 10, we're going to talk about Kiss, the band. Marvel Comics Super Special number 1.
This is the second appearance of Kiss, and they recently made news for 2 reasons. First of all, they had their last ever live performance, the end of an era, but the beginning of a new one. They have this new tour kicking off with hologram versions of Kiss performing live.
They literally went in and did like what they do for like CGI movies, you know, with the full Velcro setup and performed so they can capture that performance and make it eternal. And at first, I thought it was kind of funny. I'm like, oh, who would want to see this? But after seeing it on the video, it's got me thinking about like the long-term ramifications of this, you know, similar to like the Tupac hologram that happened like 11 years ago. Why that isn't more of a mainstream thing is still to my surprise.
Yeah, I thought it was super cool how they gave Gene Simmons like these huge vampire type of wings and making them have fire and red eyes. There's a lot they could do with this technology, and I'm excited to see what they do with it moving forward. Look at the CGC 8.5, selling for $500, putting it 46% above its 12-month average. Then you got the 9.2 up 7%, and the 9.4 selling for $900, 8% above average.
The 9.6 sold for $900 just a couple months ago. So clearly there's a lot of Kiss love happening this week. And this is a tough book in high grade. Although there's been 2 added to the census since we last chatted about it in 9.8, we haven't seen a copy sell since 2021 where it hit $2,500.
Now you might be asking yourself, why is their second appearance making the list and not the first? Well, this is really kind of the first Kiss on the cover, Kiss in comic books. The first cameo and first full appearance were just in Howard the Duck issues 12 and 13.
We know at least Gene Simmons has a love for Marvel Comics, and it was this book that motivated him and the band to get on an airplane with Stan Lee to travel to Buffalo, New York to drop vials of blood in the ink. So there's like all this extra special comic history and ties to Stan Lee that makes this a comic book one sought out after by even non-Kiss fans. Next on the list at number 9, Marvel Team Up. Number 14 from 2006. Did you know that Invincible and SpiderMan have been featured in a crossover before?
Yeah, we went from one crossover to the next, Kiss and Marvel, and now we have Invincible with Spider-Man, and we did get it in the comic books. The real question is, are we going to see Spider-Man in the Invincible animated series?
This is what Simon Resiopa had to say. He's a showrunner on Invincible that's happening over on Amazon. I'd love to have crossovers with DC, with Marvel, with all these other characters. I mean, in our show, you gotta wait and see if that's a thing that can happen or not. I'd love for that to happen, you know? It's very tricky nowadays. For Marvel, they sometimes license their characters to other studios. So crossing over in television is way harder than it is in comic books. And let's not forget that they've already kind of done this to a degree with Amazon. Silk is getting a live action series over on that platform. It's not that far of a stretch to see Spider-Man featured in the Invincible animation.
Well, we are getting Spider-Man Noir on Amazon Prime, so it seems like a match made in heaven for this crossover to happen. And check out the record-breaking sales from this week. The 7.5, which had a record high of $78 from November of this year, up 54%, now selling for $120. And check out the 9.0, can't even keep up. Record high of $76 in November, and now selling for $97. Lower than what the 7.5 is selling for, still for an increase of 28%.
The 9.4 broke records this week, last selling for $200 just this past October. This news pushed it up 13%, now selling for $225 for the first time in comic recorded history. The 9.6 is up 111% when you compare it to its recent 12-month average, selling for $320, which is really strong when you consider that 9.8s are clocking in around the $400 marker. In fact, that's the last sale reported, and that happened back in November. The heights were $1,000, however, back in 2021, when Invincible was all the rage because it was brand new to Amazon. So yes, it's come down, but that 9.6 is approaching the 9.8. I think you need to watch this comic book. It's very attainable.
And speaking of obtainable, number 8 on the list, we have Conan the Barbarian, issue number 1, the first appearance of Conan and the first cameo of Cole.
Did you see the Red Sonja trailer at San Diego, Jem? Because I for sure missed it, and I've been waiting ever since. And to my surprise, we haven't seen anything.
I haven't seen it, man. I was hanging out with you.
Well, if it's not Red Sonja and it's not Arnold Schwarzenegger recast as Old Man Conan, I can't help but think that the record lows of the year are what's putting this book on the list, because the 2.5 is up 3%, selling for $157. The 3.5 is selling for $184 for an increase of 6%. The 8.0 is selling for $680, an increase of 22%, and the 9.4 just hit $1,500. That's an increase of 1%. But here's the thing. The last 9.4, since these numbers were collected, sold for $1,140. You can get a Conan 1 for near $1,000 right now. That's gotta be why this book keeps showing up on the Hot 10, because people are seeing the prices and going, now's the time.
Yeah, the prices are down, so fans of this book are taking that opportunity to pick it up. I mean, look at the 9.8, had a record high, really an outlier, of $14,400 in April of 2022. The real record high is more of about $8,100, which is the sale from March of this year. But the last GPA sale, which is also the yearly low, for just $5,300, makes this book more affordable than ever.
Join the mystery mail call, ComicTom101.com, to get a Raph Grassetti Batman 121. Yes, we brought back to press the first appearance of Mr. Freeze, and we got the former God of War art director, now Netflix art director, to do the damn cover. $34.99. We also have a one-time purchase option if you want to try us out, and we are open officially for international members. Support the show, and we'll send you some funny books every single month.
And moving on to number 7 on the list, Luke Cage deserves better, man.
Dude, what's going on with this, man? Like, I love seeing Charlie Cox and Vincent D'Onofrio Kingpin. Awesome. But Luke Cage deserves better, damn it. Hell, I would say Jessica Jones deserves better, and throw Iron Fist in there if that's what we have to take to get them all. And as of this last week, it appears that this is not canon, even though that it was like loosely canon, because these characters, like, dude, Vincent D'Onofrio is on Echo. Charlie Cox was in SpiderMan. Like, this is happening, but it's also not happening. What?
I think you had most people up until Iron Fist, but I agree. Jessica Jones and Luke Cage were both perfect castings, and it's sad to see that they're not really in the plan to cross over into the MCU, but it might happen.
Marvel recently released a book called The Marvel Cinematic Universe: An Official Timeline that chronicles the eras of the MCU in all the phases. And Phil Coulson, who died in Avengers, he is still dead in the official canon, essentially erasing everything that happened on television with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. In fact, if you keep going, the only characters from Netflix that were mentioned as part of the larger MCU is The Punisher, Daredevil, Kingpin, but nowhere to be found. Luke Cage, Jessica Jones, the Defenders, Iron Fist. So clearly, the intentions were to pull some characters from this timeline, but to leave others in the dust. How do you feel about this, Jem? Because I, for one, loved the Netflix shows. I
mean, if I think about it, it kind of makes sense. They did grab probably the more popular characters. You have John Bernthal, you have Charlie Cox, you have Vincent D'Onofrio, but I don't think that these shows did as well as those, so maybe they're leaving it out for a reason. I don't know. Either way, collectors are still putting their money on Luke Cage, and it's evident with these sales. A 3.5 is up 11%. So is the 4.5. The 6.0 is maintaining, selling for around $300, and then the 8.5 up 20%, selling for $828.
Luke Cage is currently mayor in the comics, and he doesn't have his own ongoing series. That narrative is playing out throughout an event at best. We are seeing him get kind of the shaft on the big screen and in the funny books, and I want to know your thoughts about that in the comment section below. While we move on to number 6 on the list with X-Men 94, this is an amazing book. Chris Claremont begins his run on the X-Men that would become legendary, and similar to Giant Size appearance on our list last week, I think it's the same reason why this book has landed it here this week. The book is getting too low, and the copies that are going up are getting purchased.
This is a book that you couldn't keep off the list during the comic boom, if you guys remember those years, and it makes sense with all the mutant hype that we're seeing with Deadpool 3. I mean, check out these sales, a 2.5 selling for $310, 38% above its 12-month average. The 3.0 is up 9%, the 5.0 is up 11%, the 6.5 sold for $590 for an 8% increase over its 12-month average, and then we have the 8.0 shooting over the four-figure mark, selling for $1,288. That's 38% higher.
There have been so many fake things revealed about Deadpool 3. I mean, I even saw what I think is a fake picture of Cyclops on the set. There's a lot of buzz around X-Men, and I think that that is a dangerous thing if you're buying this book because of Deadpool 3, because clearly this isn't necessarily a setup for the mutants' introduction. If anything, this is the start of like the next phase of the mutants, which may take years to come to fruition.
Moving on to number 5, we have Star Wars issue number 1, and this reminds me a lot of the Conan issue 1. It's the first appearance of an iconic character, or in this case, many characters. There's nothing really going on in outside media, but it is the time to buy.
Dude, a recent 9/8 sale broke $2,000 in the low direction. Like the last sale was $1,825. That was this December. That's the year-long low, the cheapest this book has sold for during an adjustment period. This book is getting so damn cheap, and it's the holiday season. I can imagine a lot of people buying Star Wars 1 just as a gift. Looks awesome on the wall in any grade. And take a look at the numbers. 3.0 sold, 8% up. 5.0, 50% up, 7.0, 24% up, 7.5, 28% up. You can get an 8.0 for $300 on the first appearance of Luke Skywalker, and that's up 15%. You can get a 8.5 for under $400 for an increase of 34%, and the 9.4 hit $660 this week for an increase of 20. That's so many sales despite any news surrounding the IP.
Whether it's the holiday season or just the market in general, it's definitely a great time to pick up some blue chip key issue comics. But if there is any Star Wars news, you know what the best way is to find out, right?
Yo, you got to download Key Collector Comics. This is the source that we all use every single day. It's available on both Androids and iPhones, and you literally get alerts when big news happens. Key Collector Comics is literally how I learned about what's going on with Jonathan Majors, Comic Fam. This is an app that gives you updates about the industry and then also the comics that are being affected by said news. So you can not just learn about them, but consider them, whether you should hold or sell, or if you should buy.
Number 4 on the list is a book that we haven't spoke about in a while either. It's Amazing Spider-Man issue 78, the first appearance of Hobie Brown, the Prowler.
I missed this book, Jem. Like, where has it been? I mean, the 7.0 just sold for $415, and that's a record-breaking sale. It's up 4%, probably because we just got news that they have begun filming and creating the next Into the Spider-Verse movie, where the Prowler, multi-versions of the character, are going to be the prime suspect for all of the chaos, the antagonists of the film.
The 4.5 selling for $125, 14% above its 12-month average. The 6.0 is up 13%. The 8.0 is also up 14%, and the 8.5 is up 11%. The CGC 9.8 just sold for $5,640, which is an increase of 3% over its 12-month, and a pretty strong sale considering the market that we're in.
There's only 19 copies of this book at a 9.8. It's essentially a ghost at that grade, very similar to other Spidey comics that came out in 1969 like this one was. I'm excited for the movie. I'm glad to see that they're back on pace, and there was more buzz as it pertains to books spiking, new keys being discovered that became of interest to collectors from this what is going to be trilogy of films than most MCU anything that's come out on Disney Plus, let alone the theaters.
Let's not talk about how the record high was $10,800 in September of 2021, though.
Yeah, let's just keep on going to number 3 on the list with Amazing Spider-Man 210. Jem, people are in. They saw the Madam Web trailer and they're like, I need this book. I'm going to buy it right now. I mean, we have a slew of sales. I mean, am I reading this information wrong?
Yeah, man, I think this is a bad buy. I don't think that this is going to really pay off in the long run, but look how many books are selling here. First of all, we have newsstands. We have a 6.5, which is selling for $115, 39% above average. Newsstand 7.0 is up 42%, and then we have some direct markets. The 8.5 is up 2%, the 9.0 is up 3%. Why are people buying this book?
There's like a handful of people that were excited about this in the comment section. You know, the trailer that looked atrocious, like a CW show. And if you liked it, my apologies. It's bad and it's probably not going to be good. I could be wrong, but I'm not. I think this is very similar to what's going to happen with Avengers 8. There's a lot of people who have this book. There's a lot of people buying this book. And now that the trailers come out, now that Jonathan Major's out, people are going to go, let's just get this online and make whatever we can back. So this book is coming down in price, but it's selling aggressively. We're only halfway through these damn numbers, Jim.
Yeah, I know the Newsstand 9.0 sold for $190, 31% above average. The 9.2 direct market's up 15%. The 9.6 is up 9%. The Newsstand 9.6 sold for $525, 61% above its 12-month average.
At a 9.8, this book hit $2,500 when the Madam Web news began back in 2021. A 9.8 sold this week for $840, and that's an increase of 1%. But that slew of sales has to mean that people are dumping their copies. And this is a book from 1980. It's still a major Spidey key. So some people just want to like add it to their collection. This isn't necessarily a book that I would even relate to the movie very much because Madam Web is such a different character than what we're going to get that this right here is like the storm has arrived and people are just buying it because there's a sheer volume increase.
Yeah, I think you got a point there, Tom. We're buying the first appearance of Madam Web, but this isn't the Madam Web that we're getting in the movie. You would think it'd be one of those more modern iterations that we would see spiking, but to each their own. Number 2 on the list, it's funny, as long as I've been gone, things have been staying the same. Wolverine issue number 1 is still one of the hottest comic books in the world.
What do you think about this, Jem? Because there's going to be a new Wolverine series called Weapon X-Men that's going to be teaming up different versions of Wolverine across the multiverses, bring them into one group to fight up against a foe that would even scare the Phoenix. So clearly, Marvel Comics has an intention of bringing multi-versions of Wolverine. Do you think that could happen on the screen?
At this point, nothing would surprise me as far as who or what is going to show up in Deadpool 3. I highly expect us to get a Wolverine Origins version of Deadpool in the movie, even though we already got that in a post-credit scene. I still don't really understand why this book is the one that has been placed at the forefront of this whole movement, but either way, we have a Newsstand 7.5 selling for $100. That's up 12%. A direct market 9.2 up 3%.
Newsstand 9.2 is up 21%. 9.4 direct is up 34%. You can get a 9.6 for $292 right now for an increase of 11%. And the 9.8s hit $740. That's an increase of 10%. We were chatting about this book approaching the $500 marker prior to the Deadpool 3 announcements. This book could be had for under $700 if you're patient and wait for it on auction. That's what this last member did, who grabbed one for $698.
Now, this one makes a lot of sense. I was out of town and I didn't get a chance to see this movie yet, but everybody's saying that this Godzilla -1 is incredible.
This book destroyed records this week. Hit the like, and let's talk about the hottest comic book in the world.
He usually destroys all monsters, but this week he destroys all other comic books. It's Godzilla issue number 1. It's the first ongoing Godzilla series published for the US market.
8.5 is up 20%. 9.0 is up 49%. 9.2 is up 27%. 9.4 is up 24%. 9.6, 28%. 9.8 just sold for $550 for an increase of 32%. This is one of the best movies to come out in over a year.
By the time you guys see this, I should have already gone to theaters to see this movie before it's pulled. And we have to talk about those 35-cent price variants. We have a CGC 7.5 record setter. The first time this has ever sold, and it's sold for $500. And then we have an 8.5 of that same 35-cent variant. $135 was the record high from 2010, and it's up 1,422%, selling for $2,055.
Hot damn, comic fam. We may be in an adjustment period, but those scarce books, Mark, jewelers, newsstands, as well as that 35-cent elusive variant have maintained so strong despite the rapidly changing marketplace that we're in. Similar to Star Wars #1, Marvel tested the market in particular cities to see if they can handle an increase of 5% to their cost of their funny books. Well, within that 30 days, Godzilla 1 got that same treatment.
And to put in perspective just how scarce that 35-cent price variant is, there are only 49 total copies graded on the CGC census, where there are over 3,000 of that direct edition. That's less than 2% of the total books.
This right here shows that when an adaptation is handled right, what can happen to the funny books. This 35-cent variant has a height reached of 9.6 only. This right here has now just become a ghost that members are hunting for, really, I think, for the first time in many of their collecting history. I want to know your thoughts about all this in the comment section below. Should we fire Gem Mint officially? And as always,
I didn't get fired. Geek responsibly and stay minty fresh.
enough said.